I was 16 years old when my high school football coach gave me the unlock to being a leader of consequence. And this philosophy not only helped take me all the way to the NFL, but it became the operating system upon which I built my personal life and my career in business. Now, like anything, it takes practice, like building a muscle, repetition, and a constant daily effort to maximize its impact, which is why my coach harped on it every minute of every single day. Is anyone learning? Really? I just told you I'm about to give you the unlock. And that was it? Do you want to learn it or what? Good. Okay. It requires a little bit of imagination. Okay? So you got to go there with me. I want you to imagine yourself hanging off the side of a cliff by a rope. Put yourself in that moment. You can talk about why you're hanging off the side of a cliff by a rope later, okay? But put yourself in the moment. 1,000 feet beneath you is a rocky bluff. You are holding on for dear life. And at the other end of your rope stands one person, your rope holder. Who is this person in your life? Aside from the physical strength required to pull you up, what mental and emotional leadership qualities does your rope holder possess? You see, in early age, I learned that strength is important, but it's not sufficient. You see, because strong arms without a strong mind are meaningless once fatigue and pain start to set in. So, what are the qualities of a rope holder? What are the qualities of a leader that makes an impact, not just an impression? Let me give you a few. Dedication, discipline, the desire to be the best, perseverance, performing under pressure, handling adversity, responding to a loss, teamwork, communication, empathy, adapting to a game plan, the ability to be coached, working within a multicultural team dynamic, and more. You see, from an early age and through the sport of football, I learned what it takes to be a leader of consequence. But we have a massive problem in our country. We have a massive void of rope holders. In politics, in business, in life, in families, we're missing rope holders. In fact, in the business community, PwC's annual CEO survey said 77% of CEOs in the United States say that a lack of these leadership skills, sometimes called soft skills, a lack of these soft skills are the number one threat facing business today. Now, don't let the term soft skills fool you. This term was actually created in 1972 by the US Army when they wanted to create training manuals for leadership. Not what you do for your job, how you go about doing your job. They recognized that certain leadership skills meant the difference between life and death. And 77% of CEOs are saying that this is the number one threat we face? How in the world did we get here? Well, there's a few things, a few reasons. There's demographic trends that have occurred, which are normal. And there's been a cultural shift in the way we raise our kids. First, the cultural or the demographic trends. There's a few, and they matter. Baby boomers are retiring at a rate of 10,000 a day. They're getting out. Who's filling that gap? I'm of the Generation X, as in TEDx, Generation Xers out there. All right. Sadly, there's not many of us. And because there's not many of us, millennials and Gen Zs are massively filling the leadership pipeline in the business community. There's nothing wrong with that. Highly capable and talented people, okay? Highly capable, but they come with some things. One of those things happens to be that they would prefer to communicate digitally. Again, that's okay. But studies have shown that when you communicate digitally, it has an impact on empathy and human interaction and the ability to have a strong interpersonal dynamic with somebody. Further exacerbated by 2020 and COVID, where everyone in this room and everyone watching understood what it's like to have digital conversations. The other issue is millennials and Gen Zs don't like to stick around very long. They job hop. They jump from job to job to job every 2 to 4 years. How do you build a culture of leadership if you're not hanging on to your people? Those are the demographic trends. Listen, trends happen. Worked around trends since the dawn of time. But it's the trends in combination with a cultural shift that has put us in a position where we have a leadership crisis in our country. Now, I'm going to be harsh. I have 2 boys. They're 8 and 5. So I'm a parent. So I'm going to be harsh on parents. We are raising a culture of excellent sheep. We're telling our kids to move along with the pack, to do what everyone else does. We're telling them that you've got to get a certain GPA. You've got to speak 2 languages. You've got to play a musical instrument. You have to have community service. And if you don't qualify. At my company mission, we started in 2008. Fun time to start a business. My partner actually had the idea for the company, and I love him to death. We talked about the type of people we want in the organization. That talent is important, but it is not sufficient. We must hire a culture of rope holders in our organization or we will fail. And today, I am proud to say I work with some of the most amazing rope holders that I've ever had the privilege to be around. And I will tell you this, as it relates to the excellent sheep, we do not care at our company. We do not care if you are a bilingual piano-playing Mensa with a double major from Harvard. If you cannot hold a conversation, if you cannot make eye contact, if you cannot have a firm handshake, if you don't know what it's like to work within a team, if you can't be coached, sorry, credentials do not matter. I believe athletes are an answer because we spend all of this time searching for talent, yet there is an untapped talent pool. A group of individuals who have been practicing the instinctual skills that are in most demand today since they were 5 years old. I believe athletes, by virtue of these skills that they instinctively possess, represent one of the most qualified yet untapped sources of leadership talent in our country today. But we're doing nothing with them. We are admiring them, but we're not hiring them. Dedication, discipline, the desire to be the best. These are instinctual skills amongst the athlete community. Let's talk about some of the skills that they instinctually have. Details. I played offensive line for Texas A&M University, gig 'em. No Aggies in here? You got to be kidding me. I just heard a Longhorn. Thank you for that. My offensive line coach would start every single practice with a drill he called the little things. The little things was a drill where all of the offensive linemen would line up and practice the skills you learn as a 8-year-old peewee football player. Learn how to get in a football stance. That's when you see offensive linemen line up and put their hand on the ground. Pretty basic. You learned where your foot position should be. You learned that you should have perfect alignment. You learned that the first step you take only needs to be 3 or 4 inches. If it's any more, you're going to actually lose leverage. We practice these every day without fail. Why? His philosophy was simple. Because if you practice the details every day, all the time, when the ball is snapped and all hell breaks loose, you will instinctually fall back on what you know. Athletes know how to pay attention to details. And details are oftentimes the difference between success and failure. Even more so the times they are the difference between winning and winning championships. The details are what separates those who know how to win versus those who refuse to lose. Athletes know how to perform under pressure. Whether that's walking up on a stage to give a speech, playing in front of 80,000 people, being called upon to make the last second shot, athletes have been practicing these skills since they were at an early age. This is a high demand skill right now. Athletes know how to lose. Last week, I took my 5-year-old son to his very first basketball practice. His name is Christian. Now, outside of like dribbling in the driveway and doing some bounce passes, this was the first time he was involved in anything organized around the sport of basketball. And I noticed something really interesting. When Christian was on the court and he shot and missed, which most 5-year-olds tend to do, he didn't put his head down and go to the back. He fell on the ground in an absolute hysterical, crying, unlike anything I have ever seen. And he did it over and over and over again. When he finally hit a shot, every parent in the gym went crazy for him. And Christian does what my son does. He crossed his arms like this, and he kind of went. And I thought for a moment, how valuable of a skill that he is learning. He's not only learning what it's like to lose or to miss, he's learning what it feels like to chase winning. He's learning the emotion associated with success and failure. Athletes know how to lose. We don't win every contract in business. Why in the world are we giving every kid a trophy in Little League? We are at time for choosing in this country. In the mid-1960s, there was a speech, a political speech, called A Time for Choosing. And it was about our country's philosophical position on how we were going to stand in the face of communism. We as a country had to decide that we were going to die on our feet before we ever live on our knees. And we would protect and defend any other country that would do the same. We are in a time for choosing right now. And if we choose to do nothing, we will be on our knees as a country before we even realize it. If we choose to do nothing, history will record with the greatest of astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Our universities have a time for choosing. So I have a message for them. Connect your athletic departments to your business school. Get athletes in business. Get them running our companies. Get them leading people. Get those instinctual rope holder qualities back in business before it's too late. It will strengthen our businesses. It will strengthen our economy. It will keep our country globally competitive. Parents, it's a time for choosing. How are we going to raise the next generation? Are we going to tell them that it's more important to have credentials on your wall? Or are we going to tell them it's more important to have emotional intelligence in your soul? Parents, get your kids involved in sports. They don't need to go all the way to the professionals. Parents, get your kids involved in organizations that are taking advantage of what sports brings in their lives. The YMCA is a perfect example. Just a sports-based youth development program that takes advantage of the soft skills kids learn in sports to help them become impactful leaders, leaders of consequence beyond the game. I have a message for the athletes. It is a time for choosing. If you played sports in any regard, at any point, stand up, stand out, put it at the top of your resume, and stand firm in the truth that you are a rope holder. Thank you.